Caroline in 1986. My husband Tom and I moved to Walnut Grove in the fall of '85 for teaching positions. So summer of '86 was our first experience as residents of Walnut Grove. So it was a great experience and a way for us to get to know a lot of really fun, kind, inviting, inclusive people. We had a great time just getting to know everybody. So my husband ended up doing some props and stage, and he helped with some of the sound the first year. And then later on, when we had a family, our daughter was involved in it, and she hooked Tom into going out for a part. I had also played the part of Miss Beadle, and then the first year that they started the mature Laura part in the cast, I gave a whirl at that. So we dabbled, and then towards the end of our stint with the pageant, we were in the pageant singers. We were in that for quite a few years. So it was, all in all, a very positive experience for our entire family. In order to play the role of Caroline, I first needed to think about what her character was and how her character shaped her relationships with the people she dealt with. My first thought was that she had to have been somewhat adventuresome and certainly adaptable, as it seemed like Charles liked to move a lot. I was really interested in knowing how much input she probably had into those decisions, but she had to be, at nothing else, very resilient, and she had to make do with what they had, and she had to be very creative with keeping her children safe and fed and clothed. I imagine most pioneer women had to be very tough on the inside and this tender feminine person on the outside. Living through times of prairie fires and grasshoppers eating your crops and, the bitter winter cold, it could not have been for the faint of heart. So, and I wonder too about in future scripts if it might be possible to show some of Caroline's minor character flaws, like, revealing the doubt and the internal struggles she may have had in that day and time. And of course, the bigger question is, how does that fit with the larger script? I don't know. Portraying the part of Caroline for me was difficult in that there was just so much dialogue to learn, and the monologues were huge and a bit daunting. I hadn't done any acting since high school, and I had no theatrical training in college, so to be very honest with you, I leaned heavily on advice from Beth Cleveland, to my left here. She helped me with timing of the monologues and my dialogue. And of course, the director at that time was Ross Elford, and he really helped me with tone of voice, again, tempo of the dialogue, body language, those types of things. It was a really demanding part for me. So once rehearsals started, I would have to go home and work on it every day. It's something that I couldn't just let set. I had to work at it. In 1986, we did 3 shows per weekend, 2 consecutive weekends. That first week, I remember being just physically exhausting. We had Monday through Thursday our dress rehearsals that were later in the evening, and then the 3 shows back to back. As far as how it affected us as people, our sleeping schedule kind of got pushed back later in the day, and we tried to catch naps during the day if we could. So as far as physical stamina, that week was the hardest. Another little thing that kind of worried me was Caroline's costume changes that had to be made fairly quickly, and you had to get back out there, fully dressed. to do a monologue. And so those little things kind of worried me, but once we started dress rehearsal week, there were just so many wonderful, helpful people backstage that made sure that I was dressed appropriately before we went back on stage. For me, the most difficult scenes to do were the fire scene and the grasshopper scene, because they needed high levels of physical energy and emotional energy that was, you had to keep it going and sustain it to make it believable for the audience. And the audience seemed really drawn to high action scenes. So the dance, the pie social, any horse and buggy scene was wonderful. The fire, the grasshopper, Mr. Farber going up and putting the cross at the top of the church. And then, of course, the old pie in the face for poor Mrs. Olson. Those were always the favorite. Just to keep up energy level, I think I could speak for the whole cast. We kind of drew a lot of our energy from the audience. I just remember as a newbie to the pageant, one of the nights when the Ingalls wagon rolled around to start the show, I looked up at the hill and it was covered with people. I mean, covered from top to bottom and side to side. And I don't know how big the crowd was, but I remember feeling that instant invigoration, and then kind of feeling like it was a pretty daunting experience ahead of me. But it kind of, it gives you that energy that we have to do this performance for the people sitting on the edge of the stage as well. We really have to work hard tonight. And like I said earlier, my husband and I had just moved to town, so the pageant was such a wonderful opportunity for us to get to meet all these great artistic people that were in the pageant. Just wonderful, fun and kind, and it was the start of a very impactful relationship with a lot of people for our family. So I will forever be grateful.